Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me, whether you're live or watching the replay. Over the last few days, I've been talking about my childhood. Now I'm ready to talk about those teenage years. Ooh, my coming of age, right? So, now that I have become a teenager, my choice of TV shows have changed, my clothes are changing, even my hairstyle is changing. So let me give you some examples. I went from wearing health techs, Garanimals, wearing Stride Right shoes, remember Stride Right, to now wanting Lee jeans, the Latigra shirt, and of course, don't forget your name belt. Who had a name belt? I want you to put in the chat your name belt, which was a staple if you grew up in the 80s like I did, okay? And then how about those matching Lee jeans with the Latigra shirt? You had to have that if you grew up in the 80s. You also had to have your Adidas or maybe even the Reeboks. I remember now for Christmas, I went from wanting dolls and different toys and electronics. Back then, really, it was like Atari only, right? We didn't really have all the games that we have today. But for Christmas time, my friends and I, we would walk from our train stop, which was Jackson Avenue, walk down to Third Avenue, go to VIM, pick out the clothes that we wanted so our parents would know exactly what to get us for Christmas so there was no issues, right? We either wanted cash now so we could pick out what we wanted, or we wanted the Lee jeans with the Latigra shirt. That was at least what we wanted, right? So what I want you guys to remember as well is even our hairstyles change as you go from where, at least for me, I was going from wearing the braids in my hair. I had either the braid in the front, on the side, or two in the back, or some cornrows. But now I would always, when I would go visit my dad in Baltimore, that's where I'd get the real hairstyles because they know how to do hair down in the Baltimore area. I'd come back home having an asymmetrical style or maybe some waves. I definitely had to have a perm because I was not going to be sitting in the kitchen anymore, being scared of my mom burning my head. I didn't want to experience that anymore. Okay, so even my hairstyle was changing because now I was a teenager. I was now coming of age, right? And the TV shows that I watched, now I wanted to see more mature content. So at the end of school, I would rush home to watch General Hospital at 3 o'clock. Yeah, my grandmother loved Days of Our Lives. As a matter of fact, they named me Lisa after Lisa, which is one of the villainous characters on that show. She used to love that show. But I love General Hospital. And my favorite super character or super couple was Luke and Laura. Do you guys remember their theme song? It was Baby, come to me. Let me put my arms around you. Actually, I don't know all the words, so I'm gonna stop singing. Okay? But that was my favorite couple on television. What show did you guys watch? Did any of you guys watch soap operas when you were younger? If you did, put it in the chat. Let me know what shows you watch. I know my grandmother also watched Young and the Restless, Days of Our Lives, but for me, I think maybe because I was able to see some of these shows after school, General Hospital was the one that I steered to. So I also had a evening weekly fix on a TV show at night. Can you guess what it was? Yes, it was Dynasty. Oh my gosh, I used to love Dynasty. I wanted to live like the Carringtons. And then what made it even more of my favorite show was when they introduced Dominique Devereaux, which was Diane Carroll's name on the show, right? That was her acting as Blake Carrington's sister. And when her and Alexis would have their cat fights and the dialogue that they would have. And I think back on it, I think the reason why I loved that show and just loved her so much is that she represented what I wanted to be. I was able to see a person who looked like me who had money on television. So I think Dynasty was the show for me. Let me know if you guys watch Dynasty. Put that in the chat. Some of you probably like Dallas. Dallas was a good show too, but for me, it was Dynasty. All right. So, as I mentioned, now in my teenage years, I'm starting to bloom a little bit. My aunts would come over and be talking with my mom, and maybe they hadn't seen me in a while, and they'd say, "Man, what's going on with your boobs? They're popping out." And I would be like, "Stop talking about me. It's making me so uncomfortable." I would be so embarrassed because of that. But I mean, there's nothing that you can hide. This is just part of nature, right? I think that's why I try to purposely not say those types of things to my daughter as she's getting older as well. Um, but even the guys, they're starting to notice us now as teenagers. Me and my friends will be walking down the street. Now they're starting to whistle at us, where before they didn't even pay us any attention. But now things are popping out all over the place, right? Hey, Sylvia, it's good to see you. Oh my gosh, Dynasty was my show. You and me both, right? So, my friends will tell you, honestly, I was pretty much a prude. I was the boring one of the group, but we kind of had a system in place on how we were able to get out of the house. And this was the system. I want you to picture this. If we wanted to go out and we were stuck in a house, or maybe our parents said we couldn't go, my friend would say, "Hey, mom, can Lisa come over? We want to go over to the movies, or we want to go to the park." And they were like, "Oh, okay. If Lisa's coming over, sure, you can do it." And so we would take that excuse, using me to get everyone out the house, and then we would go and do something else. Anyone else have a little fib that you would do where you would tell your parents you're going to do one thing, but you went and did something else with your friends? That's what we did. Okay. um, so now we're becoming more independent. I was taking the MTA bus on my own. My friends and I were taking the subways. And just some of the things that we would do, I was remembering and reminiscing with my girlfriend last night, is we were hanging out with the guys now. So we would say, "Oh, we're going to go to the movies," but we would sometimes take a walk from where we lived in the Bronx and walk over the 145th Street Bridge, hang out over on Riverside Drive. We wouldn't go in anyone's house all the time, but we would just be outside hanging out, talking, just having a good old time, right? And then there was another time where we were saying, "Oh, we're going to go to the movies." And what we did was we got on the subway and we went all the way to Brooklyn. And that's a big deal to be able to go from the Bronx to Brooklyn. It took probably about 45 minutes to 60 minutes to actually get to Brooklyn, hang out for a little bit, and come on back, right? So that was our routine. We would kind of use me as the way to get out of the house, so that way we can go anywhere we wanted to do and hang out and have a good old time. All right. um, so what are some of the other things I wanted to share with you guys? Let me think. What I want to hear from you is, if you're watching live or if you're watching a replay, is I can see some of you guys. Shout out to Sylvia. She's telling me she remembers the Lee jeans. She remembers her Latigra shirt and Adidas and the Jerry curls. Exactly. I remember my best friend had the Jerry curl. I had a perm. Um, so these are things that we did as a teenager. We're now uh, trying to get out, trying to show a little bit more independence. Sometimes talking back to our parents when we shouldn't have been talking back. Right? Who knows what I'm talking about? That's when you get that smack across the mouth. Okay, so we have to be. This is such a good feeling to be able to share these thoughts with you guys and be able to remember our family members, whether they're still with us or not. It's been a great time. But tomorrow, what we're going to talk about is what nobody expected, a new addition to our household. But you got to log on tomorrow. I'm going to come back on tomorrow afternoon so you can see what I'm talking about. Again, I want to thank you if you're logging on live or if you're watching a replay. Go ahead and put your comments in the chat. I will be interacting with you and let you know my thoughts as well. Thank you guys. Have a great Tuesday. Make sure if the weather's nice in your area, get out. I think I'm going to go out and go for a walk today. It's supposed to be like 62 degrees outside. Talk to you later.